Hello everybody and welcome to another mathematics video. And in this video we'll be continuing our journey with functions. So far we looked at how to evaluate normal functions, we looked at how to evaluate composite functions, and then we touched on how to evaluate the inverse of a function. And today we want to tackle some CXC questions on functions. So at the end of this video you should be able to do one thing, that is to solve correctly exam questions on functions. So let's head into our fourth set of questions. So this question says, the function f and g are defined as follows. And we have f of x is equal to 2x minus 1 all divided by 3. And g of x is equal to 5 subtract x all raised to the second power. And they ask us to determine the value of g of 2. So in this case, we want to determine the value of g of 2. So all we're doing, we're taking the function g and we're putting 2 inside of that function. So the function g of x is equal to 5 subtract x squared. So g of 2 would simply be 5 subtract, instead of x, we'll say 2 squared. So this would be 5 subtract 2 2's is 4. So g of 2 will be equal to 5 subtract 4 would be 1. So g of 2 is equal to 1. The next thing that we have to find is f inverse of 3. So before we can put 3 inside of the function, we must find f inverse of x. So we're taking the function f and we're finding the inverse. So this is the function f. So we're finding the inverse of that function. So this will be the first step. We know how to find inverse. Step 1, we replace f of x with y. So this will be y is equal to 2x minus 1 all divided by 3. And then we interchange the x and the y. So this will be x is equal to 2y subtract 1 all divided by 3. And then we make y the subject of the formula. So we take over the 3 is dividing everything, so we take it over to multiply. So x multiplied by 3 would give us 3x is equal to 2y subtract 1. And then we take over the 1 is subtracting, and we take it over to add. So we'll have 3x plus 1 is equal to 2y. Then last but not least, we take over the 2. 2 is multiplying, and we take it over, it will divide. So we'll have 3x plus 1 all divided by 2 is equal to y. And then we will work from here. And then we replace the y with the inverse notation. So we'll have f inverse of x is equal to 3x plus 1 all divided by 2. And we can now find f inverse of 3. So f inverse of 3 would be 3 multiplied by x, in this case would be 3, plus 1 all divided by 2. And 3 multiplied by 3 would give me 9 plus 1 all divided by 2. So 9 plus 1 would give me 10, and 10 divided by 2 would give me 5. So f inverse of 3 would be equal to 5. And that is how we can answer these two questions. And we have all of our marks there as long as you can work these here correctly. Very simple stuff. Let's go into our next question. This question says, the function f and g are defined as follows. F of x is equal to 2x minus 1 all divided by 3. And g of x is equal to 5 subtract x raised to the second power, the same set of functions as just now. So this one says derive an expression in its simplest form for fg of x. So all they're asking us to do here is to find fg of x. When they say derive, they mean work it out and find fg of x. That's all they say. So don't be carried away with the word derive. So we want to find fg of x. So fg of x, we see we are taking the function g and we're putting it inside the function f. So we do that. So fg of x would be, we have the function f, which would be 2. Instead of x, we will replace it with g of x. So we'll say 2g of x minus 1 all divided by 3. This would be 2, and g of x would be 5 subtract x squared minus 1 all divided by 3. So this would be 2 times 5 would be 10. 2 times negative x squared would be negative 2x squared subtract 1 all divided by 3. And this will work out and give us, we put the like terms together, so this will be 10 subtract 1 subtract 2x squared all divided by 3. This will give us 10 subtract 1 would be 9 subtract 2x squared all divided by 3. And this will be the function fg of x. And that is how we can derive that. It's simply to substitute the function g inside the function f. And that's how we'll get all of our marks. So let's look at the next one. This one says, two functions f and g are defined as follows. F of x is equal to 3x plus 1 and g of x is equal to x squared. So the first one, they say, find in its simplest form an expression for f of x minus 2. So in this case, we have f of x minus 2. So in the previous example, we had f of 2, f of 1, and so on, but all we did was replace whatever is in the bracket in the function. And it's no different here. Whatever is in the bracket, we'll replace it as x in the function. So f of x is equal to 3x plus 1. So f of x minus 2 would be, so f of x minus 2 will be, we're taking whatever is in this bracket and we're putting it inside the function f of x. So this will be equal to 3 multiplied by x minus 2 plus 1. All we did, replace x with what is in this bracket, as that is what we've been doing all the time. And then we work it out. So this 3 will multiply throughout the bracket. So 3 times x would give me 3x. 3 times negative 2 would give me a negative 6. And then we add 1 there. So this will be 3x negative 6 plus 1 would give me a negative 5. So f of x minus 2 would be 3x minus 5. And that is how you work with that kind of question. So don't be carried away because you see x minus 2 in the bracket. You're not doing anything different. You're doing the same substitution of whatever is in the bracket. You're putting it in the function. So don't be carried away. Let's look at the next one, which says g of 3x plus 2 plus 10. So just remember, just be very careful with this question. You're substituting whatever is in the bracket. That is what you're substituting. You're not substituting anything else. Whatever is in the bracket, that is what you're putting in the function. Remember, this is like if you have g of x. And whatever is in the bracket, that is what we're substituting. So we're not substituting the 10. The 10 will be in the function, but we're not replacing x with the 10. Whatever is in the bracket, that is what you're replacing with x. So in this case, g of 3x plus 2, close bracket, plus 10 would be equal to the function g of x is equal to x squared. So this will be gx plus 2 squared, and then we add the 10. So it's whatever is in the bracket, we're replacing x with that. So we just add the 10 to the function. So now we work this out and we simplify this. So 3x plus 2 squared, that simply means we have 3x plus 2 in one bracket, 3x plus 2 in the other bracket, plus 10. And then we work this out, we have a bracket multiplying the bracket. So whatever is in the first bracket has to multiply everything in the other bracket. This will be 3x multiplied by everything in this bracket. we're taking this 3x and we're multiplying everything in that bracket. So this will be 3x multiplied by 3x plus 2. And then now we take the plus 2 and we multiply by everything in the bracket. So this will be plus 2 multiplied by 3x plus 2. And this will be plus 10. So we work out and we distribute. So 3x times 3x will give us 9x squared. 3x times 2x would give us plus 6x. And 2 times 3 would give me plus 6x. And 2 times 2 would give me plus 4. And this will be plus 10. And this will now simplify and give us 9x squared. 6x plus 6x will give me plus 12x. And 4 plus 10 would give me 14. So when we work this out, we'll have 9x squared plus 12x plus 14. And that is how we work out g of 3x plus 2 plus 10. And that is how we get our 3 marks for this question. Because this question was slightly different from the many others that came in previous years. But it's the same concept that applies. Whatever is in the bracket, that is what we're substituting. So let's look at the next question. So this one says, consider the following functions. Now we have 3 functions. F of x is equal to 3x. We have f of x is equal to 3 over x plus 2. G of x is equal to 4x minus 5. And h of x is equal to x squared plus 1. And it says, for what value is f of x undefined? So this is the function that we are looking at. And we want to find what is the value of x, which would be this x, for which f of x is undefined. So they want to know when would this function be undefined. As you can see, we have a fractional function. We have a numerator and a denominator. So the thing about how can a fraction be considered undefined? Now, a fraction is considered undefined when we have a 0 in the numerator. And if you go in your calculator and you punch in 5 divided by 0, you'll get error because it's undefined. Right? So to find when this function will be undefined, that would mean when would the denominator be equal to 0. So we have the function f of x is equal to 3 over x plus 2. And we said this function will be undefined when it will be 3 over 0. So we need to find what will be the value of x to make this denominator be equal to 0. So what we do, we take the denominator and we equate it to 0. So this will be x plus 2 is equal to 0. And then we now solve for x to find the value of x for which f of x will be undefined. So this will be x is equal to, we take over this plus 2 to become minus, and 0 minus 2 would be negative 2. And this would be our answer, as simple as that. F of x is undefined, so we can say f of x is undefined at x equals negative 2. So what this means, if we substitute negative 2 for x, we'll have 3 over, instead of x, we'll say negative 2 plus 2. And this will give us 3 over negative 2 plus 2 would be 0. And this is undefined. And that is what it means to find the value for x when f of x will be undefined. Just equate the denominator to 0 and you solve, and that would give you the value. And you will get your 2 marks for these questions. So it's just to remember 2 simple things. Equate the denominator to 0, and then you solve, and that would give you the value. So when you see these kind of questions that ask us when f of x will be undefined, we just equate the denominator to 0. So I repeated this about 3 times. So let's move on to the next question. The question says, f of x is equal to 3 over x plus 2, and g of x is equal to 4x minus 5, and h of x is equal to x squared plus 1. And they're asking us to find f of 0. So we need to find f of 0. So we're taking, what this is basically saying, we're taking f of 0. So if f of 0 is saying we're taking f of 0 and we're putting that inside the function f. So let's do that. So we have the function f of 0, we're finding that for us. So f of 0 will be equal to 3 over, instead of x, we'll say 0 plus 2. And this will give us 3 over 0 plus 2 would give us 2. So f of 0 is equal to 3 over 2. And now we're taking this value here and we're putting it inside the function f. That's what we're doing here. So this will now be f of 3 over 2. And that would give us 3 over, instead of x, we'll say 3 over 2 plus 2. So we can work on the bottom. We'll have 3 over 2 plus 2. This would be the same as if we have 3 over 2 plus 4 over 2. And this will simply give us 7 over 2. So this will be 3 divided by, or 3 over 7 over 2. And we can simplify this by writing this as 3 divided by 7 over 2. And this can be 3 multiplied by, we flip, we change and then we flip. Since we are dividing fractions, we change and we flip. So we change the division to a multiplication. 3 multiplied by 2 over 7, which will give us 3 times 2 is 6 over 7. So f of 3 over 2 would give us 6 over 7. So we do the same thing as we were doing all the time. Find for the outer function, in this case is f of 0, and we take that and we substitute it in the inner function. And that will give us the answer for this question. You get all your marks. As easy as that. Let's look at our last question now. The last function type questions that you will see in your exam. So this one says, given that f of x is equal to 1 over 3x plus 4 and g of x is equal to 3x over x plus 1, determine the value of x for which g of x is equal to 5 over 2. So now that they're telling us that g of x is equal to 5 over 2. So we have the function here, and they're asking us to find what is the value of this x when this is equal to 5 over 2. So what we can simply do, instead of writing g of x is equal to 3x over x plus 1, we can say, they told us that g of x is equal to 5 over 2. So we can say, instead of g of x, we'll say 5 over 2 is equal to 3x all divided by x plus 1. And we can solve for here. So what we can do, we have, so from the time you have a fraction equal a fraction, your mind should immediately go on doing some cross multiplication to get rid of the denominators in the fraction. So we can do some cross multiplication. We multiply this by that, and multiply that by that. And we do this because it's challenging to work with fractions. So you try to get rid of them as early as possible. So we do some cross multiplication. So this will be 5 multiplied by x plus 1 is equal to 2 multiplied by 3x. So 5 multiplied by everything in this bracket, 5 times x will give me 5x plus 5 times 1 would give me 5, and that is equal to 2 times 3x would give me 6x. And now we solve for x. So what we can do, we can take over this 5x over here with the 6x. We'll have 5 is equal to 6x minus 5x, because this is a plus, and we take it over, it will subtract. So 5 is equal to 6 minus 5 would give me 6x minus 5x would give me 1x. But of course, as math people, as math persons, we know we don't write back 1x. We just say x instead of 1x. So x is equal to 5. So if g of x is equal to 5 over 2, we can say x will be equal to 5 when we solve that. And that is how you work this kind of question. When they tell you the function is equal to something, you just replace, in this case, replace g of x with what it was equal to. And then we solve for there, like how we solve a normal fraction, and you're on your way to getting all the marks for this kind of question. And with that, it has brought us to the end of this video. We've looked at the many ways in which CXC can bring functions questions. It's just for you now to practice these concepts, and you're on your way to scoring all the marks in functions. Functions, they repeat. Functions, they would come every year in the paper. So you have to understand functions. And these are the ways in which CXC will bring them. So I trust this video has brought some clarity on everything as it relates to functions. And you're on your way to practicing lots of questions and getting all correct. So with that, see you until the next video.